and it creates this real sense of unease in the neighborhood. And so I've actually dealt with politics on this in a real strong way the past couple of years. Last year and over this past year, 3 medical cannabis dispensaries have come to the neighborhood. I did not take a strong position against them. I actually said that there should be access to medical cannabis in my district. I didn't think that we should have 3 approved all at once or 2 on one block, but I felt that we need to actually explore ways to have access all over San Francisco. And if I believe that there should be access all over San Francisco, I was not going to say that there shouldn't be access at all in District 11. And so I accepted the fact that I could get 3 MCDs, which are now in my district. Now there are one MCD that's currently there wants to spin off and have an MCD across the street from an existing MCD, and then another MCD wants to be on the same block where the other 2 are. And I don't really think that this makes a lot of sense. I don't think it's very reasonable to expect that while access is limited in many parts of San Francisco, that we create more places for MCDs to come in a particular neighborhood that already has a great number of MCDs. I don't believe by putting 2 more MCDs where we already have 3 MCDs increases access at all. And I am interested in increasing access. And that's why I have my second piece of legislation moving forward, so we can actually have that before us and direct the planning department to come forward with an actual study of how MCDs can be cited in the future. And with those recommendations, I'll be coming forward to the full board, and probably back to this committee again, to legislation that would actually have a broader set of regulations. So we will see certain neighborhoods be the ones that are going to be receiving MCDs coming in the future. That to me is about increasing access, and that's what I want to be able to do moving forward. But it's going to take cooperation with my colleagues, and I think I also need to make sure that my colleagues are looking at making sure they're keeping all MCDs from their neighborhoods and just being satisfied with there being certain neighborhoods like the Excelsior or parts of the Mission or the South Market or parts of San Bruno Avenue in District 10 as the places where only MCDs can be cited. That to me is not about access, and I would actually live up to that by promoting something that I think would be useful for all of San Francisco. So I know that there's some controversy about these measures. I don't think there really should be, but I understand that people have concerns about touching the third rail of medical cannabis dispensaries and how they're situated in San Francisco. I'm willing to hear everyone out. And
Supervisors, my name is Shona Dokenar, and I'm just going to fill in the access of love spot. I have a concern just about fairness of process. I know that there's a few dispensaries that have applied and are in the pipeline. And what I'd like to see is that everybody gets fair rules, the same rules as everyone else. And I think this is a little bit premature. I think we need to look at what comes back from the planning department and how the planning department works with patient advocates on our concerns about access. And so I would ask that we could really reconsider item number 3 until we get the feedback and the input from the planning and our community members so that we can make a good map. And I appreciate that you are looking towards opening up zones that haven't been opened up, and that is a problem, but we can't address that problem by starting an unfair process. And I echo the same comments as Mr. Ward before me, that our community should not be lumped in with dangerous things like alcohol and gambling and adult massage parlors, and I don't think that the use of medical marijuana will create any type of adverse neighborhood impact. In fact, we are partners with the city on public safety, and it's been proven that we increase public safety around every dispensary, and our task force also unanimously voted in support of compassionate care and having the city work with us on programs like Healthy San Francisco and being inclusive of our patients that are denied access because of affordability. And so these are discussions that I would like to see the city further, and I'd like us to hold on with item number 3 until we're all able to meet on item number 4. Thank you.
Okay. Cannabis Task Force. I was representing the national policy seat on behalf of Americans for Safe Access. I'm a lifelong resident of San Francisco's Mission District, and I went to high school and spent many of my teenage years in the Excelsior District. We've had 4 closures of dispensaries in the Mission, and the one remaining dispensary has been threatened to close by the federal government. I have concerns on any restrictions that the city is going to impose on any medical cannabis dispensaries. I'm here today to talk about a continuing discussion that's over 8 years old on what's reasonable for our green zones. I'm here to share my concerns because I cannot agree to stricter zoning regulations without understanding and seeing what the green zone map is going to look like. I have sympathy for the murder that you discussed, as I too witnessed 2 people be killed at the age of 15. But that had nothing to do with the fact that our area was red zone for alcohol permits, nor the fact that I lived next door to a dispensary. The murders had nothing to do with that. I could not find the agenda online, and I was very confused when the written notice on item number 3 had no mention of medical cannabis dispensaries. I find that very deceitful for the public and the patients who are trying their best to give you guys public input on this process. I also have concerns about the 500-foot restriction in the cluster. The cluster is a result of our current regulations. That's a consequence of what you guys put in writing. To hold those consequences against dispensaries when they have paid permit fees and done everything required seems very unfair at this point. I also feel that competition increases quality, selection, and price. Please do not support further restrictions until we have a study and we consider what this is really going to do for our city.
Thank you for the next speaker. I'll call more cards. Brent Sau.
Medical Cannabis Task Force, Legal Legislative Affairs Committee, and Patient Advocacy Committee. And I'm a member of the law. I'm in support of number 4 here. But number 3, I'm first of all very upset, as Sarah Frater said, that it makes no reference to medical cannabis. So a member of the public that didn't know what was going on today would be blindsided by this. There's no real appropriate notice given. This is about restricting medical cannabis access in the Excelsior District. And I think that's a very serious problem. And I also think it's a problem when you refer to a sense of unease in the community. I think that's discriminatory. I feel that that's it's really a very negative thing to say. We're people, we're patients, and if people feel uneasy about people that are medical cannabis users, that's really their problem. That's not our problem. There really aren't enough dispensaries in the city. There could be more throughout the city. That's why number 4 really is important. And the reason for the clustering in the green zone is because the rest of the city doesn't have, safe access. So obviously addressing number 4 will alleviate many of your concerns about density in number 3. But at the same time, how many Walgreens do you have in your district? And how many, coffee shops? And how many other kinds of stores that you don't have any objection to? And yet, more than 3 cannabis dispensaries is too many? I think that's absurd, frankly. Thank you.
Really?
I'm here to say that I support this proposed neighborhood commercial district, and I support severely eliminating the density of MCDs in this neighborhood. We have the highest concentration of children and elders in the entire city. Our main street suffers from litter, graffiti, and now a proliferation of businesses that may provide too much of a temptation for our at-risk youth. My life has already been impacted by it. I no longer walk down Mission south of Geneva after walking there with my 7-year-old, seeing some people hanging on the street and saying, I just want to smoke weed all day, which, maybe they're harmless, maybe they're not, but it's not something you want to expose a 7-year-old child to. So I'm already avoiding streets in my
What
neighborhood.
about the children?
Our lives are busy with work and parenting. Our family works hard to improve the community. We've participated in tree plantings, we've installed a sidewalk garden, we're restoring rundown property. In what little time we have left, we spend a lot of time raising funds for the chronically
MCDs do that too.
We simply do not have the free time to constantly battle each and every new potentially problematic business that tries to set up shop on Mission and Community Streets. If we are using our limited energy fighting a never-ending onslaught of negative influences, we'll have nothing left over to create positive change. I ask you this, if it is not a business you would like to see a block from your houses, do not approve it for the Excelsior, Outer Mission, or Proctor influence. We ask that the city approve this legislation to help the residents create a better Excelsior and Proctor zone. We deserve some permanent protections from MCDs, internet gambling, and other businesses that are not family friendly. Thank you.
The need for this policy or I'm sorry, there needs to be a policy discussion about dispensaries in San Francisco, where they should be placed, where they should be located, the approval process, what the approval process should look like. I want to know, and we need to know why we are rushing ahead before the planning department concludes their study, before even considering this. The perceived clustering problem in the city has been caused by the restrictive zoning issues,
Yeah.
the green zone, which needs to be addressed and expanded. San Francisco has a history of NCDs and they're examined to everyone, so if we create restrictive policies, that will echo throughout the United States. And we just hope that you will delay this ordinance until the planning department makes their study final.
Of negative businesses, and if we actually had our district going in the other direction, where we were actually seeing a greater diversity of businesses coming in, I don't think that MCDs would be so much of an issue. But when we see that a lot of businesses are very negative, we add MCDs to the mix, it doesn't make the neighborhood feel very comfortable on their own commercial corridor. And that's something that I think as a supervisor, I need to really be conscious of and aware of, and to really stand up with my community on. And I'm unfortunate that people feel that this is about targeting MCDs. That is not my intention, but I can see how you can make that conclusion.
To your attention, what I believe is an important need for a timeout. I believe that this issue of increasing the restrictions on the placement of cannabis dispensaries comes too soon in advance of the citywide study. That's logical. Secondly, I've been a long advocate in the central neighborhoods of San Francisco, Mid-Market Street and the Tenderloin. And for a long time, in fact, from one of the first days that I drove into San Francisco, I looked at Mid-Market and I thought, I wonder why this Mid-Market is in such a depressed condition when surrounding neighborhoods are growing with such great advances. Well, it didn't take reducing the number of medical dispensaries for cannabis to bring about a resurgence in Mid-Market. It didn't bring about reducing the number of cannabis dispensaries to increase the diversity of businesses. What was necessary was both the economic and social factors coming together along with the support, not the restriction from our supervisors and our mayor, but the support of our supervisors and our mayor to move in the right direction. If we want to legislate for good neighborhoods, we don't legislate against things, we legislate for things. We try to move in the direction that is positive. You mentioned that you didn't want us to link all these bad uses and you felt bad about that, but it was your opening comment that linked the uses of medical cannabis with internet gambling. None of us have those distinctions or those connections in our mind. And so I believe a timeout is necessary. I believe some cooler heads are beginning to enter the discussion. I believe if we were to have a couple of weeks and maybe even a month, we would be here with a much more united voice to have some ideas that will actually work. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
I'm a San Francisco PASA Americans for Safe Access core member, also a director at Spark in San Francisco here. And I work at a dispensary that is less than 500 feet away from another dispensary. And what we've seen with having two dispensaries there together is an improved, a much improved block over what was there prior. I started working there before we were open. The neighborhood was a lot different. We only helped that with our security, our presence in the neighborhood, the foot traffic that generates that actually helps those other businesses that you're looking for. And as far as the 3 dispensaries opening in your district, I think it's important that those open because those are just replacing ones that were shut down by federal interference. We need more access throughout the city, and to simply say that you can't have any more dispensaries in one district will not grant you any other opportunities for dispensaries to open anywhere else in the city just isn't fair. And it's not the right way to start a process of opening up the green zone. We need to start with not a negative, we start with a positive and move forward from there. We know, and I think you made reference to it in your opening statements, that there is a study that says that, a RAND Corporation study that says that crime is reduced around dispensaries. So that just helps all of our neighborhoods, particularly ones that are blighted. I want to thank you for your continued support. I know that you've always been there for us, and I want point to some of the good operators in our city that we need.
I take civil rights. It's always amazing to me over the actually 50 years or so that I've worked in civil rights. I'm 55, but as a kid, as a Jewish family growing up, we were restricted from neighborhoods because people thought we were going to bring property values down. I've worked in the South in civil rights, worked on behalf of African Americans, gay, lesbians, you name the minority now, medical cannabis patients, I've represented them. And it always makes me startled. I'm startled when I hear buzzwords that are used to discriminate against a minority group, such as medical cannabis patients. The last speaker talked about a healthy mix of businesses. You know, economists talk about a clustering effect as an efficient way to increase business. If you see 4 gas stations around the corner, I remember I was a kid, I said, Mom, why are there 4 gas stations there? Well, it turns out that that's an economic effect because it brings more vitality, service, and competition. So all the arguments about a healthy mix and all that, just, again, it just sophisticated buzzwords that seem to me to undermine the basic equal protection principle that was bound to protect here in San Francisco, which is that if we're going to discriminate against people or businesses, we have to have a really good reason. We can't just throw out buzzwords. We have to have statistics. So what I urge you to do, since I also believe the notice of this meeting was incorrectly given by the committee, is to put this out. Give us a chance to look at this. Let's look at the land study. Let's dispel some of the fear of the community. Let's explain how we can operate together. Medical cannabis dispensaries can actually help attract more businesses. We're seeing revitalization of college in San Francisco. Let's not give ourselves into fear and anxiety. Thank you very much.
15-year resident of San Francisco. I live in District 11 with my wife and 2 kids. I'm also the president of Lucky Dragon, which is the new application at 4130 Mission Street. It took over a year for Lucky Dragon to find a home at 4130 Mission Street due to very, very strict zoning laws. To find the right property and the right landlord, and it's a bunch of combinations of different things that have to go right in order for us to put in the grandfather clause for those applications that are in already. Okay. I also have 500 petitions in support of Lucky Dragon at 4130 Mission Street. I'd like to pass those along.
Sure, you could bring up just a question for you. You had no idea that we were looking at this legislation all these months because this was in Plan Commission about 4 months ago, and certainly it was discussed before that. So you were in the process of doing permitting. You knew this was coming forward, and tell me right now, where do you work?
I don't work anywhere right now. I used to work for Mission Organic. I don't work there anymore. In fact, we did receive a determination letter from the City of San Francisco, which was a positive letter of determination, acknowledging our efforts to open a new MCD at 4130 Mission and allowing us to go forward with the process. No, I did not know about the legislation at the time of applying for a permit.
I'm very surprised by that. Also, you go before Planning Commission when?
Well, that's another thing which is very upsetting is that we thought that we had a November 7th date for our DR, and somehow it has been moved and canceled. And also, 4130 block of Mission Street did not fall under the ordinance when it first came out, and somehow the next 2 blocks all the way down to Alameda were swept under the rug and put on with it.
The notice for this hearing did not make clear that the city would in fact further restrict the green zone in District 11 along this corridor. The second issue I have is really on the substance of the item number 3, which is that MTDs and patients alone are going to be subject to parking restrictions or requirement for a parking plan, transportation plan, whereas no other business is subject to those requirements. The question is, why is it treatment? Why the unequal treatment when a patient's vehicle takes up no more room than that of a patron of a nail salon,
Thank you.
bicycle shop, any other type of business? And the third problem that I have with this, Supervisor Avalos,
2 public meetings, you indicated that you had contacted planning commissioners and planning staff with respect to these pending applications in order to prevent them from going forward. And we don't think that that is proper. We think that's interference with the department's administration of the law as it exists now, not as we would like it to be at some point in the future. And that is why these applications have been delayed. And in fact, they were submitted prior to your legislation, and the legislation was expanded, the corridor was extended in order to pick up what you dragged. Those are some of the concerns, there are some others, but there's no need to rush this forward. People should have a meaningful opportunity to participate in the process. And I think that this attempt to sort of hush and rush this legislation through is not right.
Thank you.
I support Supervisor Avalos' legislation. I personally live near an MCD and I witnessed an increase in foot traffic since it opened, which I feel is generally a good thing along the commercial corridor. However, many residents and merchants feel that these businesses are an intrusion into a family neighborhood, and that they increase loitering, public smoking, and other quality of life problems that we are already dealing with. For instance, marijuana smoke contains many of the same carcinogenic, mutagenic, and teratogenic chemicals as tobacco smoke, including acetaldehyde, benzoate-pyrene, and cyanide. I do not believe that the public is sufficiently warned about these risks, or that current anti-smoking laws are effectively being enforced. We have a large number of schools and senior community centers in Excelsior, and these vulnerable populations deserve to be considered when determining what types of businesses are appropriate for the area. I also believe it's better policy to distribute MCDs throughout the city, not to concentrate them in a few neighborhoods like Excelsior.
I am the Chief of Staff at the Institute of Workers Center. I'm here today as the SPUR Union Representative for Local 5, the United Food Commercial Workers Union Medical Cannabis Division. We have 32,000 members in the Bay Area, and here in San Francisco we represent Macy's workers, Walgreens workers, Safeway workers, and we represent the medical cannabis workers at Mission Organic Center in District 11. We had spoken earlier before the meeting, Supervisor Avalos, and pretty much agreed to disagree on this, but I did not realize we actually have 25 union jobs at Mission Organics, and we want 25 more union UFCW jobs at the Lucky Dragon on 4130 Mission Street. For UFCW, it's really about the jobs and economic development. We also support human rights and patient rights, but we take jobs and policy and politics very seriously, especially our union member jobs. So, we definitely do make endorsements, we count votes, and we definitely keep report cards. I ask we not further restrict the permitting process. I wait for the planning department to do its study on expanding the green zone. There's consensus on that, and there's a big split with I believe most people against.
You go by medical cannabis club, you don't see anyone laying on the street. You go by a liquor store, what you got? You got people laying on the street. This is medicine to us. This is not for the money benefit. This is not for tax benefit. It's medicine. That's all it is. Thank you.
I thank members of the public for being here and for expressing yourself on this legislation. I understand how many of you may believe that I'm associating MCDs with negative activity. I'm actually looking at the association comes with the current negative slide that's happening in our district, and how many people in our district feel very uncomfortable with an increased number of MCDs that are coming in, while we're seeing the corridor deteriorate with storefronts that are actually not providing really good activity, like storefronts that are providing internet sweepstakes, winnings, gambling, and storefronts that are paying cash for gold and things like that. We have a corridor that was going in the other direction, where we saw a great diversity of businesses coming in, where we saw wonderful neighborhood serving businesses like bike shops and bookstores and clothing stores and art shops. We would see not the need to actually move forward, and we would see that the MCDs could actually enhance what's happening on the corridor. That's not what's happening. And I think it's really important that residents in the neighborhood really have a say-so on what the corridor looks like. I have petitions here from one of the organizations or one of the MCDs that wants to start up a Lucky Dragon. And I'm seeing for the first time that there are actually people checked off on here as residents of District 11. In the 14 years I've lived in District 11, I haven't had a single person come to me as a District 11 resident, identified as a District 11 resident who said, I need access to medical cannabis. I've had one person ever do that.
So, for example, early in my term, there were some folks, some very, very responsible, upstanding leaders in the Casper community who wanted to open an MCD, and they couldn't actually